Hey, good morning. Welcome to the morning brief. Today is Monday, April 7th, and wow, do we have a grim sight coming into the market this morning. Market is down substantially, although it's not as bad as it was overnight. We've actually recovered maybe half of the carnage before here the market opened. So, what is going on? Big down day on Thursday, big down day on Friday. Looks like we're going to have a big down day today, and this pattern has happened before. We've had a lot of crashes. We've had a lot of majorly bad days that were a Thursday, Friday down, close on the lows over the weekend. Lots of pessimism, and we have this nasty, nasty day on Monday, followed by a recovery day on Tuesday. So let's hope that that is the pattern, and we'll see some recovery on Tuesday. That being said, how do you trade this market? Well, in my opinion, there's only one way to. There's two ways. There's two ways to trade this market, and that is cash as a position. Stick to that. And number two is you have to lower your size. So I'll be trading the micro contracts today, as well as going to the smaller contract and expanding my stop, because the volatility is so high that you're going to have a very large stop. Otherwise, you get stopped out almost immediately upon entering. The other thing is that support and resistance levels are virtually useless. You really have to trade momentum. If it's going down, you go short. If it's going up, you go long. It's kind of as simple as that. But remember that it's the volatility is so high. I was trading last night at midnight, and I took a short, and I was instantly 80 ticks down. The good news is I had a 100 tick stop on the NASDAQ, and so it didn't stop me out, and I ended up being right. But the gigantic swings are here to stay, at least for the day, and we'll have to see what happens later. News-wise, as always on Monday, very limited news. So what do we have? We have FOMC member Krugler speaking at 10:30, consumer credit at 3 p.m., and that's it. So that's a good thing. No news. Of course, the tariffs are the main source of news and the main source of our angst. Remember that politically, we don't really make any suggestions or comments about politics. We just trade. So, the one thing I do want to say is that once we get looking at charts here, we had heavy volume on Friday. This is very concerning. However, it does also say that we may start to see some climax or some capitulation going on here, which may be an intermediate bottom. Look, you can see here that even overnight, while we are still down substantially, we've gained almost half of it back overnight. So we'll have to see what happens once the market opens here in about 45 minutes. Where could it go? All bets are off. When you're in this emotional trade, there's no reason. So I'm going to go with this low volume node right here because it's such a low volume, 47.79 as a potential. On the top side, I'm going to go with that low volume node at 5,043, or if it gets crazy, maybe it'll get up to this next low volume node at 51.6175. Looking at the overnight and intraday inventory, you can see here on Friday, ugly day. Notice that on Thursday, even though we had a down day on Thursday, we still had up in inventory, and so that's a bad sign. So you're seeing these bottom fishers or buy the dip folks here. We see the down, and we see down. Maybe we're starting to get some of these buy the dip folks getting to get burned, and they are bailing out, and that's going to create this capitulation sell. Don't know. Have to wait and see. Obviously, here you can see the gap down, and we are about in the middle of that gap down. Looking at The overnight action, you can see the gap down, and then we put in the low right away, 48.30, and then we've been chopping sideways since. Again, don't know where this is going to go. I actually took my support and resistance lines off due to the fact that the range is so wide and they're ignoring everything. So you're going to trade momentum if you're going to trade today. Remember, cash is a position and it is a decision. So those are the only two ways I think you have to trade, is to lower your size by going to a smaller contract. Where is support and resistance? Just based on the chart alone, I would say we've got some resistance at 50.74, which is the close of Friday, and we've probably got a little bit of resistance just under the whole number of 5,000. Then we have to jump down here to 49. I'm going to round it to 4,900. 48.50. Now, if we break below that, 4,800, I'm sticking with the round numbers, 5,800, 47.50, 4,700, because they're just running through old support, old resistance like it's nothing. Again, you want to avoid trying to make entry trades at support and resistance, and instead use momentum as your primary directional move or a directional decision. Stock Trader's Almanac is 47.6, but it also has, that's for the S&P. For the NASDAQ, it's 33.3. So both those numbers are negative. But again, when the emotions come into this, it sort of throws out everything. Throws out your indicators. Nothing seems to work when there's this much emotion. It really becomes your ability to put your hand on the market and feel the pulse and see what direction it's moving at this moment. Jump in, make a profit, jump out. So yeah, that's kind of going to be it's going to be a crazy day today. Again, Stock Trader's Almanac 47.6 for the S&P. For the NASDAQ, 33.3. There's your historic numbers. Also, huge volatility, 192 points. 192 points overnight action. That's gigantic. So, obviously, the VIX is through the roof. I think it's at 49 as I speak. Again, I'm not ready to say, hey, I'm ready to buy. I think you got to keep your hands very close to the vest and trade small. Take your profits when you have them, and be extraordinarily careful. And sometimes the best thing to do is to step aside and stay on the sidelines. There you have it. Hope you have a great day. Happy trading, and I'll see you tomorrow. Hey, thanks for watching the morning brief. Check out my website for more information, oneononetrading.com. Take a look at the Troy levels, a trade location finder for the futures markets. Help you find those levels of support and resistance that are just so hard to find. I also do personal coaching and mentorships. So go ahead and take a look at my website, oneononetrading.com. Thanks.